the waterfalls where we'll have our lunch. Then into the Alps. Our afternoon stop will be in Liechtenstein, and then on to the Tyrol for overnight. So that's the programme coming up today. And let's hope it stops raining.
Kami melintas melalui negeri Jerman yang disifatkan sebagai Black Forest. Cuaca dingin, amat sejuk.
But they didn't lose anybody. I guess so. Probably. Oh, there's a floor shop there. Nice tiles.
Well, these are obviously German ladies. Looks like they may not be.
Freiburg stands at the gateway to the Black Forest. So we're going to drive through the city and then we pick up a local road through the Black Forest itself. Freiburg is quite a famous university town, so you always see the students cycling about, and has an old cathedral in the old part of the town. It's rather interesting. There are natural springs in the old town, and they run down the sides of the streets. The springs, the water has never been deviated to go underground, just runs down the side of all the streets, washing them, keeping them clean. Freiburg was part of the Austrian Empire. At that time, Germany was divided up into lots of independent states. It wasn't a united country, it was just lots of different states. Some of the states were dominated. Austria now was part of the Austrian Empire. So it was here in 1770 that Marie Antoinette, an Austrian princess, said goodbye to the Austrian Empire. Now Marie Antoinette, she was just a young girl. She was about 15 years old, and she'd been promised in marriage to the heir to the French throne. They've never met. She travelled in a great procession with all her courtiers and her maids and of course her dowry through the Austrian Empire until she came to Freiburg. And in Freiburg, there was a huge celebration, Germany and France. She crossed over the Rhine and was met by the French, and then was taken up by a French party to Paris, where she was married. All that was in 1770, and in 1889, of course, she was guillotined, had her head cut off during the French Revolution. Well, Marie Antoinette was always remembered for her famous words. She lived in another world. When she heard the people of Paris were starving, she said, "Let them eat cake." She didn't realize that if there's no wheat for flour for bread, there's no flour for cake either. She didn't realize that these things were connected. Anyway, so Freiburg is where Marie Antoinette said goodbye to her homeland and crossed over into France.
Tak ada pula.
Kan? Tak payah awak nak lari dari saya. Ha? Saya datang ni nak berbincang. Bukannya nak pukul awak.
From a distance they look black because the leaves of the trees are very dark, and they're mainly spruces and larches, and they're dark green trees. So they look black from a distance. Also, the forest is very, very dense. So you go inside and it's pitch black. So that's why it's called the Black Forest. It's not just a forest either. It's a range of hills. And the hills stretch about 106 miles from Karlsruhe to the north to Basel to the south. At 106 miles, and we're coming into the Black Forest in about the middle. In medieval times, the people who lived in the forest used to believe that if they went into the forest too far, they would never come out again, as the spirits would eat them up. People were very superstitious, and of course the forest was very dark. And there's lots of stories and legends about the Black Forest. I'll be telling you a couple a little bit further along. During the summer, people come here to take their holidays, to walk in the forest. They stay on one of the lakes here. And in the winter, there's skiing. It's very thickly forested, but some of the forest has been cut away to make ski runs. And also there are some springs, natural springs, in the Black Forest, and the waters are meant to have curative powers. So a lot of people come here to stay in the forest and to take the waters. One of the famous springs is of course in Baden-Baden. That's a very fashionable spa resort.
Is 8:53 continental time. We are going through the Black Forest area.
Statue of a deer. You see that? Look right up on the right hand side. Can you see the deer? many royal people used to come and hunt in the Black Forest because there's lots of wild animals here. And one day a prince came here with his friends to hunt for the day. They hunted all day and they didn't find anything. And then towards the end of the day, they spotted a beautiful deer. And they started to chase it through the forest, the deer running faster and faster, the party coming after the deer, chasing him. And finally the deer arrived at the edge of a ravine, where in fact you saw the statue of the deer. The deer had nowhere to go. It could hear the hunting party coming up behind it, and it had two choices: to stay there and die, or to jump across the ravine. You saw how wide it was. Anyway, so the deer gave the most enormous leap and jumped from where you see the statue of the deer to where you saw the cross. When the hunting party arrived at that point, of course they couldn't jump over the ravine too. So the deer escaped and ran off into the forest. So where you see the cross is the place where the deer... It was getting towards the end of the day and they were a bit tired, and so they stopped at a little house in the middle of the forest. And they asked the old man who was living there in the well. Now, this old man, he lived by himself in the forest. He had a little house and he had his vegetable patch and all the animals and the birds. And they used to come freely into his house and talk away to him, because those were the days when animals and birds could talk to man. And he was loved by, and it said, "Cuckoo, cuckoo." The princess had never seen such a beautiful bird and had never heard such beautiful music. So she smiled and then she laughed. Her father was amazed. This was the only thing that had ever made his daughter smile. So he said to the old man, "Can I buy the cuckoo from you?" To go back to the palace, and that he would send them something that would keep the princess happy forever after. So he worked all winter. He carved a clock out of wood. He made a very simple clock mechanism with 3 wheels and a stone as a weight, and he carved a cuckoo out of wood, and he designed the clock so that the cuckoo would pop out and say cuckoo every hour and every half hour. And he sent that to the royal palace, and every time the story, isn't it?
It's beautiful. I mean,
Anyway, that's the story about the origin of the cuckoo clock. That the first cuckoo clocks were made here in the 17th century. They used to make the cuckoo clocks only in winter time, because in the summer obviously they were tending to the fields and looking after the trees. And as you can see from today, it's very cold here in winter. So they used to stay inside and carve a cuckoo clock. It used to take one family a whole winter to carve a cuckoo clock. And so each one was unique, each one had a different design. As it progressed and the demand grew for cuckoo clocks, the system changed, and they had a master craftsman, and each family used to make a different part of the cuckoo clock. But each design, each master craftsman had his own design. So every cuckoo clock produced by a master craftsman would be different from another master craftsman. Hand carve cuckoo clocks, and also they are machine made. So when we stop on Lake Titisee, you'll all have to go and have a look at the cuckoo clocks. The assistants never mind people coming in and just asking to have a look at the cuckoo. They're quite happy to make it pop out for you. Some of that today is a good idea. Everyone should have a cup of coffee and a piece of Black Forest cake. What it is sponge with lots of cream and black cherries and a little bit of liqueur. It's a very delicious cake. Also in Germany, you could try the apple cake. That's also delicious here. And if you look now over to the right, you can see a ski jump. A ski jump over on the right. But when we go to Innsbruck, you'll see a much larger ski jump. You'll see the Olympic ski jump. Also, if the last valley we were in was the Valley of Hell, what's this valley called?
Valley of Heaven.
This is the Valley of Heaven.
Yes.
A better place to be, don't you think?
कश्मीर पाकिस्तान कश्मीर पाकिस्तान में
Okay, everyone, start putting your coats on. Put every piece of clothing on that you have.
Get out.
So we're going to stop now in Titisee to go and have a look at the lake. It's a beautiful lake, a glacial lake. It's filled by mountain streams, the melting glaciers. It's freezing. We're going to walk us all together.
It's snowing. Lake Titisee, Germany. It is snowing outside. Black Forest, Germany. We are in a souvenir shop. This place is famous for cuckoo clock. Snowfall. It's extremely cold. This is a snowstorm, as you can see.
So just imagine, if you drink beer but your neighbour doesn't, it means you've got to drink.
D3, we have crossover to the
So,
Switzerland
welcome
from
to
Germany.
Switzerland, everyone. I'm not sure why we have such luck as we go through every border. I think what it must be is that their offices are cold and they like coming in the nice warm bus to have a look at our passports. Because normally they don't look at the passports every time. Anyway, welcome to Switzerland. Just a short drive now on to the Rhine Falls, where we'll be having lunch. It's an interesting year to be visiting Switzerland this year, because they're celebrating 700 years of independence and democracy here, 1291 to 1991. And the origins of Swiss democracy are around Lake Lucerne, where we'll be going a little later on. Switzerland is very, and they all have the initials of the country on them. CH. CH. And that stands for the Confederation of Helvetia. That's the correct name for this country. Confederation, because this country is a confederation of different cantons or regions. And Helvetia, because the Helvetians were a tribe who used to live in this area a couple of thousand years ago. So it's the Confederation of Helvetia. In Switzerland they speak lots of different languages. The main language is German. About 60% of the population speak German, and that covers the area of Switzerland, which of course is nearest Germany, where we are now. Swiss francs. The exchange rate is 2.5 to the pound, 1.5 to the dollar. So 2.5 to the pound, 1.5 to the dollar. So for lunch, you can spend Swiss francs if you have them this afternoon in Liechtenstein. So any currency for lunch. Make sure though you spend your German coins.
1942, passing through Switzerland. This is Switzerland. Yes, next to the German border.
And Schaffhausen is where you find the Rhine Falls, the largest waterfalls in Europe. Well, in a moment we're going to see the River Rhine. This isn't the point at which the Rhine is navigable, because obviously it's too narrow, too fast flowing, and also there's a huge waterfall. However, in the past, people did used to try and take boats down the river at this point, just small boats carrying small cargo. They'd get to Schaffhausen, the boats would be unloaded, and then they'd be reloaded again past the waterfall. So Schaffhausen grew up just because it was the place where the boatmen unloaded until Basel. That's a couple of 100 kilometers away, to produce the electricity for this region. And the grey buildings you can see on the left.
This is the tour guide. This is camera shy. Rhine Fall at Switzerland.
Stay here. Stay here.
Just wait here. If you